Hi there, my name is Dan Grice. I'm running federally with the Green Party in Vancouver Quadra. The following is a video interview we shot with Dr. Jaccard a few weeks ago. Dr. Jaccard's a leading economist and teaches climate change policies at Simon Fraser University.
If you want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it is not free. So I don't agree with people who sort of see the world in rose-colored glasses and say, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can have the same amount of gadgets and things that our economy spews out. Much of it very good, better health services and so on that we're getting. The people who say, you know, I want to get all of those things and I want to stop emitting greenhouse gases. When you invest in those different kinds of cars and buildings with better insulation and alternative ways of generating electricity with coal but capturing the carbon, and renewables, solar and wind, where we have to set up massive energy storage systems because of the intermittency of those sources, this is more expensive. There is an economic cost, a trade-off with the environment. The good news is that that trade-off over a period of decades is very small. And anybody who's an expert in this area generally agrees on. Any of the economists that I know, and these are not economists who, you know, see the world through green lens. These are, you know, tried and true, fairly conservative economists who are involved in the analysis will tell you that if you use the kind of policy I'm talking about, a rising signal that alerts manufacturers and consumers ahead of time, money that's recycled back into your economy, if you do that, our productive stocks transition gradually over time. And the calculations that I've seen and that I've been involved in generating suggest that, for example, Canada could have its greenhouse gas emissions about 50% lower by 2050, and we might have lost 1 or 2 years of economic growth. So our economy would still be several times larger 50 years from now, but it would just not be that much larger. But we'd have had the benefit of a much better environment.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, that's the kind of message I try to give, is not to pretend that there's a free lunch out there, but the cost of that lunch, if you do the policy right, is quite good. And if someone says that they're, you know, worried about this cost and don't want it, then they should be honest and come forward and say they're willing to swallow the big risks of climate change. They're willing to just continue on the path we're on, which leads to very big risks of what we do to the planet and what we do to people living close to coastlines, people who live in vulnerable areas, our far north, and so on, because that's the risk they're willing to take for what is, in my view, a pretty small insurance cost. And I think that's how we have to see it. You don't have to be certain that the climate's going to change. And I'm not certain the climate's going to change. I'm just someone who says, let's take proper risk analysis. The cost is worth it.
So basically, you know, it would be best for governments to be honest with people. Either we're going to completely fail the world in meeting our greenhouse gas reductions, or we have to take these necessary steps. Is that an honest thing to say?
That is absolutely an honest thing to say. And in getting back to then, so if politicians say, okay, you know, I do care and I want to do something, but I refuse to do a carbon tax because that's punitive and that hurts people, then those politicians also should come out and be honest, or we should call them to account to say the alternative policies to a carbon tax or some kind of regulated firm cap on our economy are more expensive. So if, for example, if government goes out and says, oh, we're going to put a regulation on cars, and I can support certain kinds of regulations on vehicles, but if they do it in this piecemeal way, where they do a regulation here and a regulation on electricity generation and a regulation on buildings and a regulation on fuels, those kinds of measures are, what all economists agree, less economically efficient. That means the cost to your economy will be greater in trying to achieve the same greenhouse gas reduction target. So the political party that comes out and honestly says to people, I'm willing to go ahead with a carbon tax. I know a lot of you are jittery about governments levying taxes. Please hear me out. Here's how the tax is designed. Here's how it doesn't increase the revenues to government. Here's how it's more economically efficient. It's the cheapest way for us to get those greenhouse gases down. I'm being honest with you. Somebody else is misleading you and saying, I'm going to regulate this and regulate that, and that's so much better than a carbon tax. I think we and myself as an expert in this area needs to come out publicly in support of politicians who are willing to tell it like it is and to give the honest answer to people.